You're listening to Living in Spain podcasts with David Wright.
Hi guys, my name's David Wright and welcome to another one of my podcast shows. Today I'm going to be talking about buying and renting in Spain and what is best, to just buy straight out or is it best to rent first here in Spain? Okay, so I've been here for 19 years now and I've bought and sold several properties and I've rented here in Spain and I've rented properties that I own out to others as well. So I've got some good idea of what it's like to buy, sell and rent here in Spain. So this is my personal views and what I've seen with other expats here in Spain over the 19 years. So I always give my tips here on my blog, my posts and my podcast shows and stuff like that. But I always say it's always best to rent here in Spain. And this is not just because this is what I did when I first came here. Actually, when I first came here to Spain, I was dying to buy outright. I was really desperate to own my own place and that's what I wanted to do. I had the money and I could have bought my place outright. So after being here just 7 days, I decided to rent a place and I went to an estate agent which was recommended to me by some locals here, and I found several places that I quite like local of it, which was quite basic, 2-bedroom apartment, but it was perfect, near the beach and the money was right. It was about €400 at that time and it was a very new place, brand new, literally on the beach, only a few steps away from the back door to the beach, so it was great. And I rented here with the initial intention of just renting for a few months till I got my feet on the ground a little bit with the new job that I had set up here. And then I was going to buy. I had the cash in the bank and I was going to go out and I was going to buy a property here. Probably starting off with a bungalow or 2-bedroom place. That's what I was looking for. So anyway, I rented this apartment which was near the beach and it was great. 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, all very nice, communal pool, the lot. And it was in probably end of the summer months that we first moved here officially to live in that property. And it was great. We had use of the pool, although it closed at the end of September. And it was near the beach. The weather was fantastic. Life was great. And we had some good neighbours above us and below us in the apartment block, which was quite a big apartment block. We were on the 3rd floor, if I remember correctly, with nice sea views. Anyway, the first 3 or 4 months were great. Christmas passed and the next year came and everything was going well. The job was going well, the apartment was lovely, we really liked where we were living. The Spanish people we were renting from, we were paying through the agent monthly and everything was going great. We met them a couple of times, an older couple, everything was brilliant. And then when the summer season started, around May time, one morning I woke up early to a crash bang wallop of plates banging and smashing and people chattering in the background. And we were sleeping with bedroom window open then and I thought, what the hell's going on here? So I looked out of their balcony window and a couple of streets away there was a hotel which had been closed over the winter months, which was now open and it was getting ready for business and they were banging and crashing in the kitchens with all the kitchen windows open. So this noise was really disturbing, especially first thing in the morning when we were getting ready to go to work. So this went on for several months and then one of our neighbours that lived above us and one to the side were Spanish people, lovely, and they moved away and rented out the properties. Both of them are rented out to holidaymakers here, and both of these two people ended up buying. They were on a long holiday, similar to me, I think, and they ended up, I don't know, one of them bought, I think, and the other one ended up living there for some time. He was there after we moved out anyway. And at the time, one was German, one was Italian. And initially when we met these people, they were okay. But one liked his loud music in the afternoons and evenings, which was really annoying for us. Several times we spoke to him, asking him to turn it down, and which he did to begin with, but after about 4 or 5 times of this, we sort of fell out with him and we didn't speak to him anymore, and he continued to play his music, and there was really nothing we could do about it, including going to the president of the building and complaining to him, and he went there and spoke to the guy. No good, nothing, no joy of that. So that was him. And then the other guy, the Italian guy, I think he was Italian anyway, we didn't really know him very well, but he used to speak to friends or family on Skype about 3 o'clock in the morning, and God knows where these people were, and he used to talk quite loudly and we could hear him through the walls. Now, renting our apartment here, most of the properties in Spain, when they're older properties, the walls are hardly insulated at all, especially in apartment blocks, and this was really annoying. So you can imagine we got a nice beautiful place that we like living in, but it just became a bit of a hellhole at the end. And with the hotel behind us as well, that just sort of put us off completely about buying in Spain. Now, this is just my personal experience. I have rented another place after that for a couple of months, and it was very nice, and we got on well with our neighbours. The trouble with that as well is where we were, there was a school at the end of the street, and this school used to turn out at 2 o'clock, 2:30, as they do here in Spain, and you get all the mums turn up, picking their kids up, so they double park in your street, they're blocking all the roads, the driveways and stuff like that. So for about an hour, every afternoon, it's chaos in the street. So that's something else we didn't know when we first moved here, when we were renting. Actually, it worked out really good for us that we found out these things, and that made us look even more carefully about when we were buying. Now, I've also heard many stories like this, not just my own personal experiences, about people that are rent here, and when they're renting, they can get out of it, you can move away, you might be signed up to a contract, you can lose a month's money at the worst and get out of it and move on. But when you buy here, if you buy in a place like that, and even if you've done all the research under the sun, or all the research you think you can do, you might come up with some of these things, and the neighbours and the hotels or something like what I've gone through, and you can't really foresee that until you've been actually living in a property for at least 6 months. So I always recommend to people moving to Spain the first time, even if you've got the money, always rent for 6 months to really check that area out first. Something else I was told as well, when I first moved here, I ended up getting my mortgage through a bank. And the bank manager here at the time, it was called the Bank of Andalucía. They've changed so many times here now. And the bank manager was in our building. He was actually on the Attico, the top floor of our building. And I used to see him every day. And one day I went into the bank, not even really knowing he was the manager there, and bumped into him, and he asked me what I was doing there. So I told him, coming in for a mortgage. I had the money to buy a property, but I just wanted a very small amount of money and probably buying it outright. He sat me down, talked me through it and everything. We were talking about different mortgages and that, and I said, well, I think I'm going to pay for it outright. The apartment I was going to buy then, it was a bigger 2-bedroom apartment in a nicer area, and I said, I'm going to buy this outright because later on I want to buy a house a bit further on down the line. So the bank manager said to me, don't buy it outright. Get yourself a small mortgage. And I said, well, I don't really need to. He said, doesn't matter if you need to. He said, get a small mortgage, even if it's like 10,000 euros, and pay it off early. He said, there's no penalties for paying it off early. But he said, if you get yourself a mortgage here through us, yes, we're going to make a bit of commission out of it. He said, but the thing is, you can pay it off without any interest payments after the first year if you wish. He said, and this is protecting you. And I said, what do you mean? I don't really understand it. He said, if you buy a property outright, the bank doesn't have to they're not legally binded to do any property checks on that, but there's no mortgage on it. So they're laughing. If anything goes wrong, it's all down to you. He said, but if you get a mortgage on a property, even a small mortgage, technically the banks have to do some searches and property checks on it. And if there's anything wrong with the property, they have to be advised about it, and they can advise you, when you go to the notary. So he said to me, we do extra checks if it's a mortgage, obviously because they've got interest in it. So this is something, I'm not 100% sure if this still applies now, but I was told by an estate agent friend of mine that it's always a good idea to get a small mortgage anyway. So that's my personal advice on buying property here in Spain and renting first and getting a mortgage. I would recommend renting for at least 6 months in the area, very close to where you want to actually end up living. And also come here in the winter months. We all know Spain's lovely in the summer, but what's it like in the area where you are in the winter? Some areas of Spain, they sort of close down for the winter months, and some of the bars, restaurants and shops close for about 2 or 3 months in the winter months. So, one of the first town that I lived in Roquetas de Mar, in Almeria, it was great in the summer months, but 50% of the bars and shops and restaurants completely shut up for January and February. So it makes things a little bit more awkward if you're moving here. So there's my tips, guys. I'm renting in Spain and buying in Spain. I've got some more tips coming up soon. So if you've gained any information here at all that has helped at all, please leave us a nice comment or like at the end of this podcast.
If you have enjoyed this podcast by David Wright, then you will love his new books. Out now on Amazon and Kindle, packed with money-saving tips and information on living and working in Spain. Just go to livinginspainbooks.com. David also has a popular blog for expats in Spain. Come and take a look now at britishexpatsinspain.com.